Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sharon Evan, and in today's video we are doing something a little bit different from what you usually see on my channel. Today's video was an interview that Danny McMillan did with me, all about me. Earlier this year. If you don't know Danny McMillan, he is the host of the Seller Sessions podcast and also the founder of Data Brill, which is a PPC agency. Throughout this year, I was featured on his podcast many times, and one of those sessions was an in-depth with me. And basically, he asked me questions on how I got to where I am today. So if you're new here and you don't know me, my name is Sharon Evan, and I am a 7-figure Amazon FBA seller. I also sell my brands off of Amazon. I also do Amazon FBA coaching. I have my own Facebook group, and I have a product research and sourcing course. And I speak in different places and I do all these crazy things. But apart from what you guys see on here, I am 32 years old. I'm a mother and I'm a wife, and there was a journey that I went through to get here. And I started off very, very young, and I speak about that in this video. I speak about how 15 years of entrepreneurship, which I started selling online when I was 15, how it got me ready for where I'm at today. So if you're interested more in knowing how I got here and interested more in understanding who I really am, I encourage you to watch this video. It's a long one, but you can go on with your day and listen to it in your AirPods, and you can either also hear it on ×2 speed if you want. But it's a great way to get to know me a little bit better. So I encourage you to subscribe if you have not subscribed here yet, because I have a lot of videos here in and around Amazon FBA and entrepreneurship. And if you do subscribe, make sure to also hit that notification bell so you know when I bring out more videos. And without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions, 4 p.m. BST, Thursday. Sharon Evan is back, but this time we're going to be doing an in-depth series. Is about tracing back the footsteps on an entrepreneur's lifestyle, how they got there and what makes them tick. So obviously others in the community can understand and help that gauge in terms of helping them with their businesses or making adjustments in their life. Hello, Sharon. How you doing?
Hi, Danny. I'm good. How are you? It's so weird to be here on my own. I'm usually here with other people.
Exactly. Do you want to let people know what you're up to? Only for the fact that I need to share these to the groups for a few seconds, and then we'll get on with your in-depth.
First of all, if you don't know me, I'm Sharon Evan, and I sell on Amazon, and I also do YouTube and other things.
Now it's about you. So let's take it way back to your childhood. So where are you originally from, where you're residing now?
So I was born and raised in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I live now in Israel, but my parents they're Israelis who moved to New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I was spoken to Hebrew at home, and I spoke in English outside of my house, and in general I spoke in English, but my parents spoke with me in Hebrew.
Right, gotcha. All right, so let's talk about these early foundations. Talk to me a little bit about when you was younger, like your experiences that got you the bug to be an entrepreneur. If you started, not everyone started early, but some people, you know, they had that guidance, or it was their natural reaction or their instinct. They've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, you know, and they're selling stuff on their doorstep and all sorts. So talk to me about some of your early experiences in terms of in your childhood that would lead to business.
So it starts really, really young for me. I feel like I was born an entrepreneur, and you after this, you'll understand why. So my dad was, or is still alive, not was, is like his parents, he grew up with, his dad was a Holocaust survivor. So his dad was very not stingy, but money, like the type to hide money everywhere, always to make sure that they never
would squirrel the money away, as my mum would say.
Just to make sure he never went hungry. You know, they went through some traumatic things when he was his dad as a child. So my dad, and then his mom was really, really street smart, but not academic smart, street smart. And my dad was extremely street smart. Like, he's the smartest person I know, to be honest. And from a very young age, so we were in Israel, and ever since I can remember, my dad was always flipping, buying low, selling high. And he had an Israeli accent. So when he would call up, like this is back in the days where you would have a newspaper and you'd like see a TV for sale and then you'd call them up and buy it like that, like go and get it. So I, at the age of 10, was already doing those phone calls instead of my dad. He would teach me what to say on the phone, what questions to ask, because he would feel that if the person on the other end, like in New Zealand, was hearing a Middle Eastern accent, that they may not want to work with him or like whatever. So, and I obviously had my Kiwi accent. So I don't know how I sounded when I was 10. I'm sure they could tell I was a little girl, but so I was already doing all of the negotiating, and because he'd already taught me how to do that.
So talk me through some of the techniques that he discussed with you.
Oh, I can't remember, to be honest. To be honest, because I knew that we were going to be doing this, I had to dig deep. I've blocked a lot of my childhood out, and I had to really dig deep to remember things. I can't really remember. I just remember him really teaching me about confidence and sounding confident on the phone. And I think he would teach me also about the TVs and about I just remember having a garage full of TVs. And my dad's really good with his hands as well. And he would fix stuff up and he would sell it. Like he's the type of person who would buy a cheap car, do it up, sell it for thousands more. So he would teach me also about that specific thing. And he would also teach me about like whatever the product was, basically.
Yeah.
I also remember like when we'd travel around New Zealand and we would like go to motels. I remember like I would go into the hotel or the motel and ask all the questions, like how many bedrooms, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So I was always like the front side of the of everything. And I had, I'm the eldest of, well, today it's 5 because my dad remarried, but I had a brother who was special needs. So, and my sister, between me and my sister was my special needs brother. His name's Sharon. Everyone always asks me about my tattoo. It's my brother's name on my hand. And so I was always, in general, I don't know if you remember, but when we were doing the Branded by Women stuff, I was on, Megala had me on, and I talked about or you also say this about me, that I always look like I'm ready to attack.
No, I say that you're in, and I say it in a pleasant way, that you're feisty, and that's what I like about you. Like, no nonsense. There's nothing wrong with that. Man or woman, in a sense, is like, you know what you want. You don't suffer fools gladly, but you're also polite as well. You're not rude to people. You help people. You do coaching. You do all those things. But there's nothing wrong with knowing your worth, for one thing, and not to suffer fools gladly, because we live in a planet where people will take liberties if you're too soft. So you're like tough on the outside and soft in the center in some respects. But at the end of the day, that is a positive trait to have, because it just makes, you're not a doormat,
No, yeah, I agree. So a lot of that also has to do with being the eldest with me in my household. My parents, I talk about my parents because I left home when I was 15, and I'll explain it in a second.
Yeah.
And so there was 15 years, I'm 32 this year. It's 15 years of my life that got me ready for the rest of my life. Right. And this is why I talk about my parents so much, because my parents did not have the best relationship. Like they did until my brother came along, and all sorts of things happened between them, and nothing to do with my brother. You know what I mean? Shit happened. Yeah. And they had all sorts of businesses when I was growing up. The last business that I remember is they had successful businesses. They had a catering business, and I was always, just being the eldest sister there, taking care of my little sister especially, and just also being an eldest sister to a special needs brother. Like, I think just in general, that made me be very just prepared for life also. Now, I got ready so people could understand. So I was given the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, this exact book. This book in my hand is, I don't know how many years old. I was 12, I think, when I was given this. I don't know many 12-year-olds that were given a book like this at the age of 12. So I grew up with a father who always used to say to me as a little girl that he's not teaching me to be like him, but he wants him to be better than him.
So that book was Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Because you just showed
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes, it's only for the benefit of the people play back on the podcast. Yeah, no, I read that 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I would have been, 34? And you done it at 12. And that book changed my life. Yeah.
Me being given this at 12 can tell you the types of teachings I had. I always say when people ask me, because I didn't go to university, I always say I didn't need university. I had my dad's university. Like my dad at a very, very young age, I was taught about money and about investing. And I sometimes say, I'm being careful how I put it because I can see my dad liked this. He might be watching this. So I do say that, like, I was brainwashed into entrepreneurship at a very young age. Like there was no other way. There was nothing else I ever imagined me doing. I always knew that I'd be an entrepreneur no matter what. And there's many different things that I've done in my life that we'll speak about. But just so people get an understanding, I put out, am I still sharing that picture with you?
No, it's not on the screen at the moment. So do you want to share?
Yeah, so people can understand what I was taught. In the meantime, do you want to say your hellos, Danny?
Go on, get that up on the screen. Let's get that sorted first, and then I'll do some hellos.
Because, once I start talking,
you'll be fine.
It doesn't stop. Okay, here. So I'm sharing screen. Give me a second.
And then I'll bring it up into the feed.
Okay.
Can
everyone see that?
Yeah. So do you want to, for the benefit of the podcast listeners who won't see the screen, do you want to explain what's on there, yeah?
Yeah, so I have a folder of all of my dad's teachings as a little girl. And this is my dad. There's spelling mistakes here. Let's remember that my dad's, at the time, he was only speaking English for not that long. It says that there's two options in life, right? There's the first option at the top and there's the second option in the middle. And at the top, it says that you can, from the age of 14 until 21, right, learn. It doesn't matter if you're learning at school or if you're learning a skill or whatever it may be. And then from the age 21 until 45 years old, you're actively working on your business, right? I was always taught to be a business owner. And then from the age of 45 until 85, enjoy the fruit of your success. And then there's a maths thing he wrote here, 7 years of learning, 24 years of work, 40 years enjoying the rest of your life, 71 years.
Yeah.
And then there's the second option where you're from age 14 until 18, you just finish school. From 18 until 65, you work really hard to medium for someone else.
Yeah.
And from age 65 till 85, you live the fruit of your savings, not your success, the fruit of your savings, because that's what most people are taught, to just save.
99% of the planet will work off option 2.
So my dad always showed me, I can't remember what he taught me at the bottom. I don't know, maybe you can try and think about what you tried to tell me about how it says one finger, two, what is that? I can't even tell what he wrote there. Maybe if I can't remember what the bottom of it means.
Do you know what it looks like to me? Like a set of weighing scales. So it's uneven distribution. So the big boulder at the bottom is maybe the ones that work all their life and live off their savings, or vice versa. Do you see what I mean?
I think it's the longest stick. When you go further away from the stick, you can lift it easy up. Or if you're really close to the, I can't remember. I was like probably 10.
Maybe he's talking about leverage there. Yeah.
It was definitely about leverage. I just can't remember what. You can't see on the other side of that. There's more. You can probably see it looks like a mountain in the background. Can you see that? Like it looks like a little mountain there. You can just understand this is the type of stuff I was taught. I don't know how I was old. I was probably 12 or something when I was 10 to 12 when I was taught this. This is what I was taught from a very young age. This is how I was always taught. I wasn't taught about money the way most people were. My dad said to me as a little girl, I'm pretty sure it's from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm going to translate it to English. because he said it to me in Hebrew, but he used to say, the people that know how work for the people that know why.
Yeah.
That is something I was like, literally, I say brainwashed into understanding from a really young age. So that is the type of childhood I had. While people were out and about learning about normal stuff, I was basically reading books and things like that. Because I also grew up in a household with 2 languages, my dad used to literally force me to learn 2 new words from the dictionary every single day. Because he used to always say to me, you're not going to have fluent English and fluent Hebrew. You'll have like something in between. If you don't work on your vocabulary, he used to say to me, your mouth is the gateway to your brain. Something along those lines. I'm translating it from Hebrew to English. So that is the type of childhood I had, where I was basically taught these things from a really, really, really young age.
Yeah.
My parents divorced when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum moved back to Israel and my dad moved to Australia. Now, because I had a special needs brother, I had to go with my mum to Israel because there's no way she would have been able to fly. It's 24 hours, 12 hours to Hong Kong or something, and another 12 hours
to Singapore or something like that.
Singapore, Germany, wherever. So I came with her to Israel as a 15-year-old, and I basically negotiated with her to let me come back to New Zealand, and she wouldn't. So she let me go back to Australia to my dad. So I went to my dad. I lived with him for 4 months, and we had a rocky relationship. We kind of healed during those 4 months. And then I said to him, I don't want to be here. I want to be in New Zealand. Let me finish school in New Zealand. I'll be fine. I said to my dad, you know me. I've got the tools. I'll be fine. I don't want money. I don't want anything. I'll make it. I'll work hard. I'll be fine. Just let me go back to New Zealand. And my crazy parents let me go back to New Zealand. And I found myself in New Zealand with no family, no one, at the age of 16. I say no family because, my whole family was on the other side of the world. Yeah. My parents moved to New Zealand on their own.
Can we talk about school? I know we just hit 16. Can we just edge back? What kind of student were you at school? We've all armed with that knowledge. Did you look at school as just complete nonsense?
Yeah, I did. I just remember, if there's any Kiwis here, they might get angry at this, but it's just the truth. I remember being taught in New Zealand, history, being taught about James Cook and how James Cook found New Zealand and stuff like that. And my dad would come home and he'd look at my homework and he'd be like, what the hell are they teaching you? There's much more important history in the world than about just that. What about World War II? What about how, what about all sorts of things? What about school, the most important thing to me, because it was the most important thing to my dad, was mathematics. That's it. Apart from that, and English, mathematics and English. Apart from that, I don't think I was even taught that anything else was that important. I was a problematic kid. As you can tell, I like to talk a lot. I was the type of person to always be a distraction in the classroom. And I wasn't that good at school, but I was always good at maths. And I can't remember if I was good at English. Maths was always
I teach my daughter the same thing. Maths, English, communications, and street smarts. They're all that you need. For me, you need the discipline of delivering on time and all those kind of things. But most of the stuff is horseshit that you learn. And if you've got desire and you can make shit happen, you're a rainmaker, you'll do well in the world. I've seen so many people from school that excelled, and no disrespect, work in petrol garages, in pet shops and stuff like that. They did not use all the tools that they had and made something with it. I'd rather see someone grind and take nothing and make it into something than the tools you see where people have everything and then they don't do anything with it. So no, I totally agree. I've always been disinterested with anything related to school, and I've always dismiss it, much to my wife's dismay and stuff like that.
I think my school was just my dad, to be honest. My dad, what school taught me was how to wake up in the morning and get to somewhere on time. That's what school taught me. Apart from that, I was really bullied at school. I know no one in this world of mine knows this about me, but I had like a monobrow, and I was a skater girl. I was a hardcore skater, and I was a boys girl. Like I was a hardcore tomboy. I wasn't into makeup. I wasn't into anything. I wasn't blonde. My natural hair color is brown, and I was a totally different person. I was really, really bullied.
How did you deal with the bullies? Did you eventually turn on them and take
No,
them to task?
my dad saved me. One day, was a big story about this in New Zealand. One day I called my dad up and I said, there's about 15 girls from Howard College in Auckland. That are waiting to like beat the crap out of me after school. And my dad, the thing is, I was a martial artist as a kid, so he never understood why I didn't just stood up. Like my dad taught me, you don't take the first punch, but if someone punches you, kick the shit out of them. Like you're the one to finish it. And when money time came and it was about to happen, when it was going to happen, I called him up to come save me, and he did. He came into my school. He like took the girls out of the class, and he screamed at them that if they ever lay a hand on me, that they'll, he sat in jail for a night for doing that. But he came and saved me, and I moved school. I moved to a private school because of that. And ever since then, because my dad sat in jail for a night because of that, he was really angry at me too. He did it as because there was nothing else to do, because he tried to go to the police and the police didn't help. He tried to go to school and school didn't help. No one helped. He did it because he had no other choice. But he was like, I remember he was like, why didn't you just stand up to them? Because I'm strong. Like I can kick the shit out of anyone. I'm really strong. And he was like, why didn't you? And I just remember ever since then, that's when the real tough side of me came out, where I was like, okay, I can't rely on someone else to come help me. I need to learn how to stand up for myself. But then I moved to like a private school, and everything changed. I became popular, and I was, everything changed. But that was a school part of it. But when my parents let me go back to New Zealand, right? So I was 16, and I was in we call it New Zealand high school. I finished school. I was living on my own from the age of 16. I finished school. I stayed at school. I started my first business when I was 16. So I'll tell you about that. But I finished school. I stayed until school on my own. I wasn't always at school, but I have, I have 12
You went in for
years
registration,
on my last year of school. So in New Zealand, you've got 13 years because you start a year earlier than most countries, I think. And my last year of school, I was probably at school for like 57 days, but I still got, I don't think it was straight A's. I can't remember, but I still, I did pretty well without even being physically at school. But the question really is like, how was a 16-year-old surviving on their own, right? Because I was living on my own. So in New Zealand, I think trademe.co.nz started in like 1999, I think. TradeMe is where my online life started. So trademe.co.nz is like the eBay of New Zealand. I don't know how it is today. I just know how it was when I was 16. And I just remember my dad always taught me when I was a little girl to protect my eyes, because the UV rays in New Zealand are really, really strong, and they can really hurt your eyes. And I remember that I was like sitting, I was like, hey, what am I supposed to do to survive? I had like no money, finding myself in a country on my own. So I started importing sunglasses from America and from China. I still remember, I think of the website's like ctwholesale.com or something like that. And I would import sunglasses and sell them on TradeMe. And I'd import, like, it wasn't fakes, but they would look similar to like,
they weren't fake, they were just snide. They was knocked off.
Yeah, something like that.
Just quickly, let's say some hellos quickly. Yale says, Sharon is one of the most knowledgeable and talented Amazon sellers. Stephen says, maths is the language of life. Andrea says, and now she owns beauty brands. Haha, go girl. That's based on the monobrow thing.
The monobrow.
Let's say Halong, Chris Davies here, Alana's here, Ted is here. I spoke to him earlier on the day. Hello, mate. Hope you're well. Andrea, Mark Norton, Stephen, Bingham, Oxy is back, David is here, Asing, Tim Jordan, a few names here. Thomas Addison, Leo Lemon is here as well. So yeah, back to the sunglasses.
So I basically had a really small apartment. I think at the time, I was living in someone's basement. I think they turned their basement into like a little apartment. I can't remember.
In a basement with a monobrow.
I was no longer. I was blonde already. I have been blonde still.
Okay. Yeah,
when I was in Israel. So yeah, you know how I told you there was a brief 6 months where I was in Israel when I was helping my mom settle in. I totally changed. Like I was really rebellious because I didn't want to be in Israel. You know, it's a culture shock. I didn't want to be here. Everything. I was extremely rebellious. I was doing drugs. I didn't speak about that. I was 15 years old. I basically did everything in this world to show my mom that if she doesn't let me go back to New Zealand, like that's how life is going to be with me if she doesn't let me go. And she did. So it worked, basically.
Cool. Let's finish I want to finish the important thing because that's starting really early for you. That's half your lifetime ago, right? And then we can talk drugs. Yeah.
Drugs were before the important thing. Okay, but anyway, I was selling. That's what got me through school. So I was making quite a bit of money from importing sunglasses and selling them on Trade Me.
Yeah.
And then I started my first private label sunglasses store at 18. So what's that? 2006, I think. I had a little kiosk in a plaza type thing that you'd call. I was every single weekend, and I think you'd call it expeditions. We have like your own little booth at the age of 18, selling my own sunglasses, and it turned out to be pretty amazing. That's the sunglasses part of it.
Yeah.
So I think I had about 4 years of working with sunglasses. I'll take a pause if you want to talk about drugs for a second.
Because that's the characteristics of your life. Yeah. Where did that come into play?
That came into play when I came here to Israel when I was 15, because I was taken from my life. I left home before I was 15. I left home when I was 13. I just didn't speak about that. But my parents divorced when I was 15. I was out of home for 2 years at the time, just because of things. And I didn't want to be in Israel. I wanted to be in New Zealand. New Zealand was where I wanted to be. And I was just really rebel. My mom also met her husband, who she's been with now for like, I don't know, 15, 16, 20 years almost. We moved into his house with his kids, and suddenly from being, the eldest, he had elder children, and I just did everything to make life hell for my mom, basically. Yeah. And drugs was one of them. So when I say drugs, like I'm talking about weed. Yeah, I've never done anything from weed. Like that was it. But that's what I was doing. But that was like a very brief moment of my life. It's not like a really, like if you knew me, you'd see it's not really like me. So not that I have a problem with it.
And it's almost in a lot of cases, especially like in the US, it's been legalized now, and so
I'm totally pro weed. I have nothing wrong with weed. I'm totally pro weed, just not at age 15.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just not at age 15. There was no reason why a 15-year-old.
So was that just like a rebellious thing for you?
Hardcore rebellious. It was a lot worse than that. I was doing a lot worse. Not drugs, just in general. I was just a little shit. Like if I have a 15-year-old, he acts like I was at 15, don't know what I'll do with them, knock the crap out of him.
So it was just like destructive, like a little period that you went through that was kind of destructive, rebellious and stuff like that, yeah?
Because I wanted to go back to New Zealand. I didn't want to live in Israel. I did not want to be in, my parents just divorced. There's suddenly a new guy in my mom's life. Not in a, they're up there today. Like I love my stepdad today very much, but at the age of 15, it was like, well, who are you trying to be my dad? Like it was a totally different, 15-year-old type of. I've always been, when I was a little girl, my dad always said, there's only so long where you can be ahead of your time, because I was a 15-year-old going on 30, right? You can't say it about me today. At 32 today, you can't say it. I can no longer say I'm like a 40-year-old, right? Like it doesn't work anymore. But
it doesn't compute.
He said to me, at some stage, you can't keep saying you're really mature for your age, because I was very mature for my age. But at some stage, you catch up with it. So that was that. And then
so back to sunglasses, because you've done very well for 4 years. Why did that stop, and what was the successful moments within that? You was very young doing that. You was importing.
I was importing, and I stopped. I didn't mean to stop. I stopped for a little while to travel. I was traveling around the world, and I was visiting my dad, and I was visiting all over. And then can't remember exactly how it was, but when I was 21, my brother started getting sick, and then my mom said to me, "You should really come to Israel." So I basically, and at this time, I still did not want to actually move to Israel, but I had no choice because I wanted, to see my brother.
Yeah.
So my brother was special needs in a sense where you can't speak to him on the phone, right? Like he was like a baby. He's like a 21-year-old baby. He died when he was 21, which we'll get to in a second, but at the time he wasn't 21 yet. So I moved to Israel. I left everything. I sold out all of my stock that I had in New Zealand. I packed up everything I had and moved to Israel.
Yeah. Did you walk away with something though? You had money put away from that venture.
Yeah.
You done well enough, and then that went into savings and allowed you to use that time to go back home and do other things in the meantime.
A lot of it went on my traveling. Right, as well. But I did come with something, but it went very quickly when I came to Israel, because I'm the type of, like, my Facebook group, you can see, it's called the Alphas. I'm an alpha, right? There's only one alpha. You can't have two. And my mom's husband is an alpha. My dad is an alpha. So I never lived with my mom, because when I came back to Israel, I knew that if I lived with my mom, I would wreck her and her husband's relationship. Like we couldn't live two alphas in the same house. I'm not the type of person where you can tell me what to do or things like that. It just won't work. So I didn't live with her. And so I was already, back to taking, I've always, like, again, I've been looking after myself since I was 13, basically, but especially since I was 15. So money went really quick. Not only that, I had to learn the language. So I was spoken to Hebrew at home, but I didn't know how to read and write. And I wasn't fluent. Like I was speaking like a half idiot I sounded, to be honest. Yeah. And not only that, in Israel, if you don't have a degree of some sort, Israel's like startup nation, but if you don't have a degree, you're like, no one, you can't, just even to be like a secretary, you need a degree. And I didn't have a degree. I just had the degree of life. Like I was street smart. And when I moved here, so it was in 2009 when I moved here, no one knew what selling online was. Like Israelis don't trust anyone, that no one was buying stuff online. Like it just was weird for people that I was selling stuff online in general. I was selling on eBay as well. So I found myself at the age of 21 waitressing, basically, because there was nothing else I could do at the time.
Was that a climb down from being a business owner to doing, there's nothing wrong with waitressing. It's just once you experience, like you said, you're very independent. And when you've got to serve the public, they're not always kind. So you go from one extreme to another, owning your own business, importing and stuff, and then doing the job where you're dealing with the public. And effectively, you still got to be super nice even when people are not very kind back. Yeah.
It was hard. It was really tough for me. It was tough for me also because of my personality. I'm not the type of person that can have a boss. And you'll soon understand that my husband was my boss. We just weren't married yet. And it's funny because I said you can't have two alphas in one house, but my husband is also an alpha. So somehow that worked out.
We'll get into them dynamics.
So I first started waitressing at a beach in Israel. Also, I forgot to say that I was really overweight. When I moved to Israel, I was like 95 kilos. And in the first year of moving here, I got down to 57 kilos.
Wow.
So in 1 year, I became for my height, I was really skinny. I wasn't like anorexic skinny, but I was very, very skinny. And then I had a little bit of a rebellious time as well, where I was like hardcore partying and things like that, because I was suddenly, good looking or whatever. I felt good looking and stuff. So but it was tough because I was waitressing at the beach, and then that didn't really work out because it was just really sleazy men. So from the beach, I moved to a restaurant where I was waitressing, and it was very difficult for me because me, a waitress at the time, like to me, it was like a downgrade. And today, I would do it again if I had to, if there was nothing. I'm the type of person where no matter what.
Well, it makes you humble. It makes you humble. And that's the thing. And sometimes you have to take a step backwards metaphorically, take a step backwards to go forward again. And you appreciate it. So every day that you don't want to get out of bed, and every day you are lazy and everything else, you think back to those days. Do I want to go back to there and start again and build all the way back up? So you can use it as drive and fuel, can't you?
100%. But I was also selling on eBay at the time. Like I was still online. And at the time I was dating my ex-boyfriend, who came from a very rich family, and his parents were really stuck up. And there's a reason why I speak about this, because his mom is part of my why. And his mom used to always look down at me as in I'm just a waitress, right? And the thing is, today, today I probably make more money than her and her husband make, in general. But she didn't know. To her, I didn't go to university, and I didn't do the army, because in Israel you have to do the army. But I came to Israel after the army age, so I didn't have to do the army. And I was a waitress, and I was selling things online, because if you sell online, you don't know what to do with yourself. Like, she was really she was a witch. And I remember how she would make me feel. She would make me feel as if I was like worthless. And I remember always thinking, one day you'll see where your son will be, and you'll see where I will be, and you won't get it. And the thing is, her son, my ex, always knew that I was he always knew I'd be something. Like, he used to always say to me, ignore my mom. She doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. And it's funny how their family, they're book smart. They're the people that go to university, and she also has a successful business. She doesn't work she's self-employed, but the fact that I didn't go to university was a huge thing to her. We would have never been able to get married because of that. That was a huge thing. And then after so at some stage, I, from a waitress, then became, I started managing. I ended up managing the restaurant. And my husband, who was my boss at the time, so I was a manager, and he was I don't know how you'd call it in English, but he was the big manager of a few restaurants, like a regional type of manager.
Regional manager, yeah.
Yeah, and my husband always had his own side hustles too, but I didn't ask him if I can speak about it, so I won't. But not that it's anything illegal or anything, but anyway. And then so I was still selling online. I was still selling on eBay. And then my brother got really sick. So he got really, really sick. It was the year that we got married. So I don't know how I jumped to 24. I'm 24 now in the story.
Yeah.
And then he got really sick. Sorry, I forgot. In between that time while I was waitressing, I went to makeup school. This is actually a really big thing because no one knows this about me. So I always wanted to be a YouTuber. Right. I always wanted to be on YouTube. And I wanted to have my own makeup YouTube channel. And I went to makeup school, not to learn how to be a makeup artist, but because I wanted to be. I thought that if I wanted to be a YouTuber for makeup, I had to go to learn. And then I found that there's no way that I could be a makeup YouTuber, because then people would think that I'm some, I don't know, bimbo type of thing. That's how people were reacting to it. So I decided not to do it. And then I was just really looking to how do I get back to online, right? Because eBay wasn't enough. It was just I was always running after like buying and selling. I was always, it also wasn't.
You're in the hamster wheel. There's no consistency because you're looking for the next pallet, basically.
Exactly. And that year, I started my first online store in Israel, which was called Lionesta. It was a clothing store, which I never recommend anyone to get into. Clothing in your own time, just like don't do it. And that's also the year that my brother passed away.
Wow.
And that was a tough year. It was a tough year. He also died on my mum's 50th birthday.
Wow.
So it was a difficult year. And it was also the year that I started my online store. So it was two things. It was an exciting year and a sad year at the same time. And then I was doing that and working. So I had my online store and I was working. I started working in a company, in a high-tech company, as a project manager. I have no idea how I got the job, but I did.
You blagged it, did you?
No, I knew the owners. It was because of my English. In Israel, if you speak English, you can do really, really well if you speak English, like fluently. Yeah. Like all Israelis speak English, but I don't have the accent. Like I've got a Kiwi accent. So I was doing that. And then I hated it. Like I just can't have a boss. It's just something about me. I can't be told what to do unless it's from my husband, where it's a different thing. Oh, how did I marry my husband? So my husband and I fell in love, basically, after my ex and I
That's handy when you want to get married, falling in love.
Yeah. Not divorce. My ex and I, we broke up, and then my husband and I, like out of nowhere, it just happened. I moved into a new apartment and he helped me move. And it was the first time we were out of work together. And then we started dating, and 9 months later we were married. It sounds 9 months. It's not, it was 9 months. Yeah. Not 9 months because it was a baby or something, just 9 months. Yeah. As in and it's because we'd always completed each other, right? Like he had basically, he met me when I was like this broken 22-year-old who didn't know what to do with their life. And then he basically, this is how I say it, if he's watching me, I don't care. He basically molded me into what he wanted me to be, right? He's 8 years older than me. My husband's 40 this year. And it's same thing. He also did it as a manager. He made me the type of manager that he wanted me to be, and he turned me into the type of woman that he wanted me to be. Yeah. And I love my husband very much. And then,
are you happy with the outcome of what he molded?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, very. Because I think that my husband gave me the security in my life that I needed to be able to do the things that I was able to then start doing. Not only that, if you ask who my number one fan is, it's my husband. So no one knows this about me. On my other hand, you can see I've got this. I'm a really good singer, like a really good singer. And when X Factor came to Israel, no one knows this. This is like
world exclusive.
When X Factor came to Israel, it was when it just started. They approached me to come to an audition before they understood how the concept worked. It was before they did like this huge audition day. And I remember him we were sitting on the couch, and he said to me, well, what if you win? And I was like, I remember that up to today. It was like 8 years ago. Like the fact that he even said it just shows you how much he believes in me. It was like, what if you win? Like you could actually win. What if you win? That's going to change, what will be with us? What will be this? So my husband's my number one fan, and he definitely, I'm definitely happy with the outcome. So then Lionesta was okay. Lionesta was my online store. It was okay, but I hated it. It was just like dealing with clothing is really difficult. Like clothing and accessories is fine, but dealing with clothing. First of all, importing into Israel, import tax is crazy here. Like this country, I don't know if people know, it's the 7th most expensive country in the world.
Right. And
importing into here was extremely, extremely expensive. And in order to make a good profit, you have to sell really high. So like there's no other way to do it. And that went on for 2 years. And then I think it was at the end of 2015, a family friend who thought that I would be the only person that would understand them came and spoke to me about a wholesale idea he had to sell on Amazon.
Yeah.
Now, for me, at that time, I didn't really know, like, to me, Amazon was where you buy books. Now, it's funny that I say this because I'm like the online person that I know of. Most of the people in my life, no one was selling or buying online. Like, it was just me. And he came and there was a wholesale opportunity, and basically my husband and I had money and he needed someone to invest with. So we invested, and we were like silent investors. We just didn't know what would happen. I believed in his idea, and I was like, okay. And then one day I was pregnant, so I didn't speak about it. So my first pregnancy, I had a really late miscarriage. And that was also not that long after my brother died, which is really tough, and got through that. And then when we started the wholesale on Amazon, one day I was sitting down with a partner, and I was looking at the numbers, and I was like, holy crap, there's like a lot, the revenue's a lot here. Like, what is this? And then I started learning about Amazon just by watching YouTube. And then I took a course in Israel where you physically go and sit in a classroom and you learn about something, which is funny for me today that and I learned about Amazon. And then that's how I started to sell on Amazon. So I started in early 2016 was when we had our first private label product. I basically built it with my own two hands. And then my husband came into the picture in 2018. Yeah. He started coming into, like, it was too big for me because I was with a newborn, and my son today is 3, but I was with a newborn and I was doing literally everything on my own. And we were doing really well. Like, we scaled very quickly. We were really, well, I used luck, but it's not that we were lucky. I just didn't sleep. Basically, I had no life apart from that. The first year was just hardcore, not sleeping and just working. Yeah. And then at some stage it got too big. And then my husband came into the picture. And my husband has had successful businesses of his own. And in general, he's used to being the manager and managing from the top. And he's a problem solver. He's basically the male version of me, just better. Okay, that's my husband. We're more or less the same person. We're like yin and yang type of thing. And then, if anyone's watching me that has a husband and wife business, it's very difficult, especially if you're both like alphas, basically. If you're both, you know what I mean, Danny? Like the decision makers. And so we needed to do a rebranding on one of our brands. So today we have 2 beauty brands on Amazon and 1 baby brand. And we needed to do a brand new rebranding. What happened was that we came into a niche in our beauty brand that literally everyone was very medical looking. And then we had come in more like luxurious looking. We made this product more, and we built a whole like brand around it. And then everyone copied us. Like suddenly, from looking like the only ones looking the way that we did, everyone copied us. And we needed to do a rebranding, and we could not agree on what we're going to be doing. Like, we just couldn't agree on it. And at some stage, I went to a marriage counselor on my own. I don't know how that works. And my marriage counselor said to me, you're going to end up being really rich, but divorced if you continue this way.
And then the richest person in the graveyard eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we had to restructure the way that we work. And then we sort of came up with a system where I'm making it, I'm fast forwarding it, but it was a lot of disagreeing. And, it's not easy in general having a business partner, but when your business partner is your husband or wife, it's a million times harder. Like, I'm speaking to you from my home office. It's very difficult to like leave the door here and then like leave. It doesn't work that way. Like business and personal for me has been just the same thing. And at some stage I had to take a step back, which if you know me, I've spoken to you about this before. I'm a control freak. and so is my
Really?
husband.
I wouldn't have noticed that.
Yeah, we're both control freaks. And I had to make a decision, and we basically, he now has his stuff that he works on. I have my stuff that I work on. We have the stuff that we work on together. And that's the way it works today.
That's good. You've got a structure there, and then people take ownership to their own departments, and then you don't step on those toes. It means that you get to run your own domain. Then there's a split section down the middle. So you each have something that you own your domain, and then there's something that's for negotiating down the middle. How do you get on down the middle part? How do you draw straws there and get that one over the line? Because suddenly you've gone from your own domains, and then the bit down the middle. What's the secret?
I couldn't tell you what the secret is, because we still fight sometimes about it, but it's still hard. It's not easy, because my husband's extremely, like, a lot of my own following is watching us right now, and everyone knows I'm really creative, but so is my husband. We're both very visual, we're both very creative, but we're very creative in different ways. Right? Like I may like this pink cup that he bought me. Okay, he bought this. It's not a good example, but I may like this, but he'd like it in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so it's still tough. We just have to, sometimes we agree to disagree. We've literally also flipped a coin in the past. Yeah. Like to make a business decision. But there's some things where I've had to learn that even if I think that it's a mistake, then I'm just going to have to step back and be like, okay, because, I think I'm a know-it-all as well, which is a tough thing sometimes, because especially coming from an e-commerce background, sometimes it's difficult to take a step back and then be like, but anyway, long story short, today we have 3 brands on and off of Amazon. Yeah. And I have my coaching business, which is mine, and no one can touch that. It's just me. So my husband can't come into this. It's just me. And I'm on YouTube. And today I sit and I say to my my ex-boyfriend's mum, F you.
Yeah, you can say fuck you, don't you worry.
Fuck you. That's basically it, where I can just sit there and that to her. And, my dad today is very proud of me, and I did way more than what he ever imagined, and I'm really proud of myself for where I am today. And that's
switching up a little bit. What's your darkest hour just before dawn as an entrepreneur?
As in, like, what's the worst thing in the world for me?
As an entrepreneur, yeah. It's the saying, what's the darkest hour just before dawn? The one that kept you up all night, that big thing that you pulled it from the depths of despair, etc. Or you had a massive crash, but then you came back.
Wow, I had so many of them.
Well, take a pick.
Every time in the first year of Amazon, every time we went through so much shit. We went through hijackers, and we went through being restricted, and every time something happened, I would panic, because nothing prepares you for the limited control that you have when you sell on Amazon. And I'm a control freak, and nothing prepares you for that. I would sometimes literally not sleep at night just to I'm talking to you like 4 years ago. It was before there was any tool that I knew of that would let you know if there was a hijacker. So, I'm in Israel. When I'm sleeping, Americans are buying. I sometimes wouldn't sleep just in case there was a hijacker. I think hijackers were like my biggest fears at that time. And getting stuff, you'd wake up in the morning and you'd see your listing was taken down like halfway through the night, things like that. That was hard for me. And the way that I came out of that is building my brands outside of Amazon. Yeah. Because that was,
And your greatest achievement in life?
My son. Because we spent a long time. It took us between my first miscarriage and until I had my son, it was 4 years of trying. So my son's my biggest achievement. I mean, obviously I've done a lot in my life, but my son to me is my biggest achievement. If you take everything away from me, I gave birth, and to me that is my biggest achievement in life.
Legacy or money?
Legacy.
How would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered? As someone who helped people find what they're good at and do it.
Good. That's your in-depth. How do you feel?
Awesome.
Good. That was good. Thank you for today. There's a bit of a roller coaster there. It's, you know, with the stuff with the family, and obviously you've also suffered a loss of a child, but you just fight back. It's that consistent battle, and that's what I admire the most about you. I say to you about feisty, don't ever think that as a negative term in any stretch of the imagination. That's something to be proud of. It shows you've got grit, determination, and what you've done as a child, like leaving home and then living on your own and being independent and stuff like that. So really proud of you. So let's sign off now. And thank you for joining me today.